All right, what is up, everybody? It's the end of week 3, 2025. Coach Ken from Givin a Try here. Back with another athlete talk. A couple topics I've just been writing down again all week. Some thoughts. Keep it kind of quick and brief, but some of the topics that we're going to hit tonight. I was talking about some things with your Garmin watch that I've had conversations with people about. Pain versus injury. I just finished a session from a class that I'm taking this week, and they talked about 3 ways to reduce injury risk when running, and it was a pretty interesting, in-depth topic that they talked about. So I just wrote some notes down from there, and thought it'd be some good talking points from there. How to build races into your schedule. You already may have some A races put on there, and then I, kind of got asked, should I be doing any racing up until then? And we'll discuss the best practices for that as well. Also, come up with a nice little mindset tip to kind of link all this in once we're done with this. Something fun that I was talking about with my son earlier. But let's get into this topic as well, is missed workouts. So I was scrolling through training peaks this week of the coached athletes and was seeing some awesome just weeks of green, super consistent for some people, throwing them on there. It's awesome. Moving along. And then, of course, unfortunately, we come down to some things that are showing up red for some people, and that's okay. And but the topic is like, what do I do? What happens if I miss a workout? And life happens, or it could be due to something that's flaring up, and you just want to take a day off, or you know, the phone rings and next thing you know there's a curveball for a few days and you got to move things around. If it's off season and you're really not building into the peak A race, I tell people really just to not worry about it unless it's like a really key specific workout. It's just kind of like, hey, there's obviously a reason why you couldn't get the workout in today. It wasn't you just being a loaf and not wanting to get out of bed. Most likely it was probably because family issue, somebody's sick, you had some other responsibility, work, whatever it is. Some people are on call, they get called into work. Like that happens. And if that happens, it's a stressor with life, just like training is. So it's like kind of that took the place of your training for the day. It is what it is. We'll just say, hey, get a good night's sleep, get back at it tomorrow. There's no need in rushing off to work because you missed your workout and getting back at 10 o'clock at night and trying to force this workout in when you got another workout in the morning. If we're more so in season and we're building for something, mileage is increasing, the key workout is increasing every week. We may try and restructure it a little bit where maybe we can kind of push it off for a day or two. Sometimes it falls into Monday of the following week if it was a key long workout or something like that. But typically, my go to with people is we don't play catch up. Like if the workout's missed, it's missed. Just scrap it up, throw it away, and just keep on trucking along. You'll have this reoccurring problem if you just think, you know, I'll just move it to tomorrow, but then I got another workout, so I'll just do a double tomorrow and make up the work. Like it doesn't work like that. There's a reason why you missed the workout. There's a reason why there was a stressor involved in why you missed that, and that needs to be accounted for. And we just need to move on with the show. And that would be your best course of action, is just like get a good night's rest, get back at it, just get back on the training plan. Don't worry about it. I know everyone wants boxes to be green all the time, but things happen and it is what it is. The main thing is to stay healthy and stay motivated. A couple athletes got new watches, for the holidays and stuff. So wanted to go over a few things, especially the Garmin ecosystem. I get asked a lot, what are all these data points and things on these new watches? Um, I treat the Garmin as an input device for my data in training, and I use Training Peaks to summarize and look at the data on the other end of things. I really don't pay too much mind and attention to what Garmin's telling me, as far as like auto populating certain things or when it says maintaining productive, unproductive, all these other things. But you can make that a little more user friendly if you make sure your zones and everything are actually set up properly in Garmin. If you don't, if I throw my zones all out of whack on there, it may think on my hard efforts I'm not going hard enough, or on my hard efforts I am way overreaching. But if I set my zones up and everything like that properly, and I'm doing a decently structured training plan that has some progressive overload in it over time, it should play pretty nice with itself. I was stuck in like the strained mode for a little while just because of some other metrics that weren't working in my favor, and that's some things like sleep quality. These are metrics that I really like to pull off of the watch like that and look. And what I usually do is, and again, that's something you have to wear the watch for Like if you're going to listen to some of that data on there or pay attention to it, trends in the data, because those are very important. We'll talk about that second, trends over time, because each person's unique. You really got to wear the watch all the time. You can't just wear it when you want or wear it when you train and think it's going to give you all these awesome metrics for like HRV and things like that, or sleep quality or sleep patterns. If you're going to wear it all the time, then you can pay attention to some of those metrics. I like to pay attention to some of the sleep stuff when I wake up in the morning. I'll kind of assess on my own, like, how was that sleep? How did we do last night? Was there good sleep quality? Do I think I had deep sleep? And kind of see what I think. And more often than not, my watch will actually be just about right on par with that. If I feel really good in the morning, I'm like, wow, I feel refreshed. That was a great night's sleep. Chances are I had some REM cycles in there. It was a deep sleep. And then I look for HRV trends over time, because what one person's HRV, their heart rate variability score, you cannot compare that to somebody else's. If you have a 35 or a 40 over a certain period of time, the other person has a 60, that doesn't mean any better or worse. That's just their trend for themselves. But one thing with that, you can notice is trends over time. If it's dipping or getting better, that is just kind of like your body's response to stress. If you want to read more up about that, it's a pretty cool metric. And it's nice that some of the new Garmin watches have that. I've noticed that tank when I'm sick or really fatigued or stressed in life outside of training. I notice that value starts to dip over like a week or so. And then when things start to, you finally get your head above water and everything else, training's going good, life stress is a little less, you start to see that HRV trend come up, and it really does kind of go with the waves of that. But don't stress that like it's in the gutter that you think, or it's trending down and you're like, I have no idea why, and think that you should be stressed out over that. So let it guide you. Again, this is all just information. The true assessor is really how you feel. And the only person that really knows that is yourself. So there's a lot of self-regulation that's involved with all of that as well. Getting into this talk that I had with this class I was taking is pain versus injury. It was just an interesting talk, an interesting concept on some studies they did on not all pain is an injury. And, there's, believe it or not, there was a study where they just like randomly scanned a bunch of asymptomatic runners, their knees and things like that. And nobody in the group had any pain or anything like that, but a lot of the imagery that came back showed a lot of screwed up things going on in their knees that they didn't even feel. So just because, and what I'm getting to say by that is like, if you dig deep enough into something, like we're all going to have issues somewhere, especially as we get older, like just over life stress. It doesn't mean that problem or little tiny tear that you may have in your knee came from running. It may be something that was there for 10 years that you didn't even know about from some way you stepped off a curb 10 years ago, and it is there and it's not bothering you right now. And then this whole pain versus injury is just a cool talk, fun talk, because it was one of those, like right now after my hard race yesterday, I ran today, like, yeah, I got some soreness in my quads, and I know though what this is. It's not an injury. It's just, and it's not pain. It's just some soreness, and I know what that feeling is. Again, this self-regulation that I talk about of knowing what the difference is. One of the big problems that people have though is that they don't fix the small problems. They'd rather kind of like, that's not a today problem, that could be a tomorrow problem, and then things wind up being bigger problems because we didn't take care of those smaller problems. So jumping on your recovery, jumping on some stretching, jumping on some like active release therapy in those areas, bringing blood flow to the areas, sparking recovery for when those things are small problems, we can prevent them from being big problems, which is really important because that allows us to train a little bit better. Then they went over 3 ways to reduce injury risk, which are, pretty fundamental practices, but again, good refreshers and maybe some good things that people may want to hear. One of the things, especially with running, because out of like swim, bike, run, that is typically the exercise or modality that does cause the most amount of injuries and things, was actually consistency in running can prevent injury. And they're not saying and they like the more you run, the less likely you are to get injured. And they didn't mean just go start running 50 miles next week. It meant over time, over long periods, slowly getting your volume up to a point that you're comfortable at and is maintainable. And then you kind of just hang out there for a while and maintain that fitness level. And chances are, because you're being so consistent, you're using your body in the proper way, you are also not having this it's called an acute chronic workload ratio. And what that means is acute is short term and chronic is long term. So think about it. If you're only running, let's just put numbers out there, 15 to 20 miles a week, and all of a sudden you start bumping up to 30 plus miles a week, the ratio is a huge gap there of load over time, and that's going to really increase your risk of injury. But if you slowly build that 15, 20 mile base you have now up into the 30, 35 mile range, maybe getting close to 40 as as a marathon runner or something like that, and then you kind of hold there and that becomes your new normal, you're going to be a lot less prone to injury at that level of running because you're holding it. It becomes more of a chronic stress on the body, a chronic load of training instead of having this big ratio. So you can actually see that as well in Training Peaks. If you have, and again, I like to talk about numbers, but don't harp on them and be the Bible by them. But if you go into Training Peaks and you have all your stuff set up and you have completely, again, and I always say this, consistent data going in, you have your zone set up properly, you're not having double workouts load and all these other things, and it's the proper data, it will show you your acute versus chronic training load. And the closer that those are as it builds, the less likely you're going to have an injury. And again, anything can happen. But if you all of a sudden are training at a certain level, a chronic level of stress on the body, and all of a sudden you go back to a HIIT strength class, a cycle class, and add all these extra things in that are going to spike your acute training volume or training load, you're going to increase your risk of injury. And that's just the way it is. So that's what they're talking about with consistency, and small incremental increases, it's progressive overload, will also protect you from, the chance of having injury. Listen to your body. Like I said, fix the small problems. That was number 2. We already covered that. And that could be something with your feet. You feel a little soreness in your plantar. Start rolling it out. Start stretching it. Get on top of it now. Don't just say, I hope that goes away with some rest in a few days, and then go run again and say, it's really not getting much better. Might be getting a little worse here. And then next thing you know, you have a big problem. And now you got to stop training for 3 weeks and really rest it. And that's not gonna solve the problem. Number 3, you guessed it, strength training. This stat was fun. This was just a foot strength protocol, meaning like feet strengthening, like below the calf strengthening. You were just doing a protocol like that of strength for runners. You were 2.42 times less likely to have an injury because everything starts at the feet. And that's why I like to harp on that when you're stretching and strength training, to make sure you're working on that below the knee, that strength training. And then just adding strength training in as a whole. And that will really reduce your risk of injury. Okay, races, building them into your schedule. I was asked this the other day. They have so many races built up and they wanted to know, hey, what should I do race-wise? Should I be racing right now or setting something up? For me, I like doing anything that's not going to affect my goal, my A goal coming up. Meaning, if you're training to do a 70.3 and do it well, is it really smart to maybe build in like a marathon a month or 2 before the race? Probably not, because it's kind of different training intensity. It just doesn't line up. But maybe some local 5-mile 10K races or even a half marathon leading up to that could be something that you want to do to test yourself as you're going. I myself right now, I like doing a lot of longer running this time of year. I'm doing 50K in a couple weeks. I'm possibly doing another 50K in April. So I'm building my mileage. So yes, it'd be okay for me to sign up for a 10 miler. I mean, I'm running a marathon next week, not at race pace, but just doing it as a group workout with people, a 26-mile run. That's something leading into an ultra that kind of lines up. So, but what I mean by that is, as long as it is within the goal of what you're doing and it's not like an anti-goal, something that's going to detract from your A goal, then yeah, we can put it on there. But just don't do things that are out of the whack, because there is another saying too where, racing is the enemy of training. If it doesn't support your training goals, these races, or your big goal that you're training for, then, what is it all for? We're going to kind of ruin the potential you might have to perform on race day, because you may have, kind of maxed out a little too early, or something could have happened on that big build when you put that other race in, which was really just a B goal race and all that. And to finish it up, I got a little fun thing for you, a little mindset. My son was building a Lego set today, right? And it was a pretty cool set. It was a sports car. It was I believe it, yeah, Lamborghini. And I thought that was fun because they love building Legos, and I love building Legos growing up as a kid. And what happens? We can kind of treat this like endurance, and your big A goal, right? So my son had this set. It was a Lamborghini, and think about that as your big A race, your big marathon goal for the year, your Ironman. You just got this shiny box. It's just the beginning. You just signed up for your race, and you see what this could be. You see what the finish line is going to be. You can envision yourself crossing the finish line. You can envision that set in your hand, completely done, being built from the ground up. And now in that box, which was the box right here that he, built, is, you shake it, there's a bunch of pieces in here. And I was talking to him about it, and he understood this concept. So if my 8-year-old can understand this concept, then I think we're doing pretty good here. I said, shake the box, what's in it? He said, a bunch of pieces in a bunch of bags. I said, yeah, they're separated into different things. One bag, two bag, the third bag of parts for triathlon, your swim, your bike, your run, maybe your nutritional bag, all these things, these tons of pieces. But they really don't mean anything. But this is the goal, right? We need it to look like this. We want to cross the finish line. We want it to look like a sports car. It's pretty funny. It was a sports car, actually. And then I said, well, what else comes in the box after all that? He said, stickers. I said, yeah, that's the finishing touches. Those are like the pacing plan and things like that. That's the final layer of it all when it's all together, right before you show somebody what you built. I said, shake it one more time, though. What else is in there? He said, well, there's instructions. I said, yes. There's your plan. There's your training plan to get from what all of this is, all these pieces, all these bags, all this, what looks like nothing right now. And we got to get it together, and we got to do it properly. But there are some things that may happen along the way. My kids, when they build their Legos, they like to open the bag that they're ready for. They separate all the pieces so they're easy to find. Again, putting processes in place, habits in place, because that's the most efficient way to get it done. They open up the manual. They go to step 1, step 2, step 3. They follow it along. They don't just randomly free build and say, yeah, I'll look at the picture. I'll figure it out. I got all these pieces here and we'll make it work. They want to get this together as quickly and efficiently as possible so they can play with it at the end and have it. And as they're going through it, I always tell them too, because they've learned their lesson, as well you may have in the past, is sometimes you'll miss a piece. Sometimes you'll get a couple steps later and realize you forgot something. You have a couple options at this point. You can hope you don't need that piece, kind of keep going, hope it all fits together. Sometimes it does. Or the best is probably time out. Just take a quick pause, reach out, talk to your coach, talk to your training partners, whatever it is. Reassess, go to the plan, go back to the instructions, and take a look at it. And try and fix the correction quick so you can continue on. There's a couple times that they were building sets where they got so far, and this is early on in their journey of building Legos, they learned that this is not the way to go. They really didn't want to ask for help. They thought maybe I'd be upset that they weren't building it right or something like that. And then I come to find out later in the plan, later in the instructions that, there was these two big pieces they were building, and then they had to go together at the end. But because they didn't build them 100% properly, they didn't go together in the end. And we had to basically dismantle the entire thing and find out what step we can start back at. And that may be something like an injury where we didn't take care of that small thing that we were supposed to take care of. It now became a bigger problem. And now we have to correct that big problem, or we cannot move forward. We can't have the finishing result. And again, when you have that, sometimes you have extra pieces, and sometimes they were supposed to be on there, but we'll never know at the end where they would have lied. But the set came together in the end, and it was fine. So it doesn't mean that everything needs to be perfect, but you have to get the majority of it pretty good if you want it to look just as good as you envisioned in the future. So when he came down today, he said, Dad, check this out. He's like, look at this Lamborghini right here. This thing is awesome. It's fast. It's great. I said, look at that, man. I said, you built it from nothing. You had you bought an idea. You bought a goal. You had all the pieces. You had process in place, the way that you do it. You consulted the manual. You did it step by step. And then you put the stickers on at the end in all the correct places, the finishing touches for that race day goal, and then boom, you got yourself this awesome sports car now that you're going to put on your shelf, just like that Ironman medal or that marathon medal, and you're going to be able to look at that and be proud of that for the rest of your life because, you put it together step by step. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a couple sets that they have laying around that they just never got built. They were too hard, they lost pieces. Sometimes you got to scrap it up. A bad race, an injury during a build, something like that, and you just got to shelf it. move on, go on to the next set, go on to the next race goal, and just continue on and have at it and have fun. So it was just funny. I like visualizing and mentally mindset with things and how other things in life that you do on a daily basis can relate to the process you have in place for endurance sports. So we don't have to overcomplicate things. It's as simple as think about the build that you just put yourself into, or those first Ironman athletes that I'm going to be coaching this year, or first people to their first marathon. It's simple as putting a Lego set together, step by step. Don't look at step number 47 right now and be like, wow, that looks complicated. Start today. Start step 1, step 2, step 3. All these, this little thing is going to turn into this awesome sports car when you're done. And again, if we do it properly, you consult the right people when you're having an issue, this is going to go right up on your shelf, just like some of those other models right there that I've built from scratch in the past. And you can be proud of that and take a look at it from time to time, and it can motivate you to do something else in the future. So that's my little fun thing for today. And that's it. You know, week 3 in the books, moving along. It's going to be February before you know it. I hope everybody's staying safe, staying healthy. It's going to be really cold this week. So do what you got to do to stay safe out there. Enjoy your training. And everybody, keep balancing that life 1 mile at a time. And I'll catch you all next time.